Tiny House, Volume 6. And oh boy, another exhausting, where the hell is the light switch? Here we go. Another exhausting day. 40 miles on the bicycle, something like 7.5 hours at the job. I got sent home an hour early, but I was fine with it. And followed by Strava records the trips to the grocery store as roughly 3 miles there and back. So a 3-mile hike to go get cold brew coffee and whatever else was on my grocery list. And I'll go through what kind of groceries you can carry in a backpack and put in a little tiny fridge. Look at this thing, man. It's like, that's my freezer and that's my refrigerator for now. I had a Yeti Roadie cooler, and I think I could fit more stuff in that, or about the same amount of stuff in that as I can in this fridge. But you play it smart, you can definitely fit enough stuff in there to get through some days. In terms of food, it's the drinks. It's the drinks that take up the most space, and that's the problem. If I didn't have to, if I could fit more than 2 small bottles of iced coffee that last about 2 days each or less, I would buy a lot more cold brew, and I would get the pieces that I need in order to brew it at home. And then I wouldn't have to go to the grocery store nearly as much. But, you know, this is a brand new situation, and you just got to take these things one day at a time. It's never been smooth. Anytime I've ever moved in my life, even the last time I moved, nothing was smooth for the first month. Everything was chaotic, and you just run into, oh, I need this, oh, I need that, and all that kind of stuff. But I did get this today. That was waiting for me when I came home from Amazon. This is the knockoff Berkey water filter, the gravity filter, and but there's some work that goes into setting that thing up. But man, am I thirsty right now! So I'm gonna possibly set it up sooner than later. This water filter bottle is great, but the straw that you drink out of, it's super slow to get water to come out of this thing. And so, like, as thirsty as I am right now, I could chug that whole bottle in like 3 gulps. And I could probably do it again and again. I could probably drink a gallon of water right now. And that is the only thing I have to drink out of right now. This thing here will be handy when the water filter is up and running. But for now, that's what I'm working with. This water filter bottle, but the water comes through it very slow. And as thirsty as I am right now, it's going to be a challenge. But I'm going to take this bag off, drink as much water as I can, and then I'll go through the bag. I can't switch the orientation I can't switch from the front to the back camera while I'm recording. So I will stop, do a couple things, and then show you what I got at the grocery store. All right, let's see what we got here. Number one, because I got that water filter, I need a way to fill it. So I got a cheap plastic pitcher, and this pitcher's got this column in the middle, and I guess you put ice in that thing, or maybe you put that, maybe you fill that thing up with water, put it in the freezer, And then whatever you put in the pitcher, it's like having ice. So that's going to have like a double purpose. There's going to be a column of ice inside the pitcher to keep whatever's in it cold without watering it down. And so I'm going to be able to have like a cold whatever in the pitcher. And I'm going to be able to use the pitcher to fill the water filter from the sink. That's important to be able to fill that thing up. Let's see here. I was cooking some pasta the other day and went to salt the water, realized I didn't have any salt. And so I got a nice salt and pepper mill, a little bit more than I wanted to spend, but the next level down looked like a cheap piece of garbage. And so this is something that I'll be able to have when I have a nice place. I'll have a nice salt and pepper mill. Not the brand that I would normally want to buy. All right, so there's the salt and pepper mill. The next level, it was more money than I wanted to spend on that. But it came with salt and pepper, so I didn't have to buy that separately at the grocery side of the store. And it'll be the next level down. It looked like cheap junk compared to this one. And I like things that last. So salt and pepper mill, I'll be able to take that to my new house, and I'll have a suitable, nice salt and pepper mill for when I have a nice place. I'll have a nice salt and pepper mill. But yeah, I went to cook pasta the other day, and I went to salt the water, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I don't have salt, because I don't have pretty much anything in this place. Then I needed to get some Ziploc bags, because you never know when you're going to need to store some leftovers or some food or whatever the case may be. And I saw a bunch of reusable bags in a bunch of different styles and such. And this package here was pretty cheap, and it comes with 15 bags. It was like $12. And so I'm going to give these a shot, because I don't mind having to wash them out, and it says they're dishwasher safe, so someday if I have a dishwasher, I can throw these things in the dishwasher to wash them. But I like the concept of being able to reuse stuff. I hate buying stuff like that you throw away all the time, so I'd rather spend $12 on Ziploc bags and then never have to buy Ziploc bags again. I mean, there's a place for disposable stuff. There's definitely, you don't want to send, if I had to send my kid to school with a lunch bag, I'd just use disposable ones. I don't want my kid to have to worry about bringing a freaking Ziploc bag home. But things like that, there's a place for everything, but I like things that are reusable. So, that's the tree hugger side of me. I hate the tree huggers, but it doesn't mean I like ruining the environment. So, got some peanut snacks. This particular brand is delicious. Peanuts. It's got some like marshmallows and some other goodies in there. That was a winner the other day. Got for my tiny fridge, I got some ham. Got a little bit of ham. So I've got ham, bread. I also got some butter and some cheese, so I can make some grilled ham and cheese sandwiches. I do have a cast iron pan that's ready to rock. I've got 2 cast iron pans. One got pretty beat up in storage over the 2 years 2+ years that I was in prison and came home to all my stuff trashed. But the other one was stored in a bag, cast iron pan bag. They make special bags for those. And that one is fine. I can cook on it right now. So I'm going to be able to make some grilled sandwiches. That's a step up from Burger King right there. Let's see what else we got in here. For drinks, I saw this lemonade on the they have the juice aisle where the juices and stuff aren't refrigerated. And, you know, you probably have to refrigerate this stuff after you open it, but they have like the apple juice and some of the juices in certain aisles where it's not it's not refrigerated. So I might stock up on some things like that because I can't obviously stock too much in this tiny little fridge. We did get a new washing machine today. So that's supposedly we're good to go there. This is the cold brew coffee that I've been buying. It's the right size bottle that fits in the fridge. It's the cheapest one that they sell. There's other brands that I like better, but it's basically the other brands are just straight up cold brew coffee without any extra flavor or anything like that. But I highly prefer to just make my own. It's easy. It's 4 ounces of ground coffee for a half gallon of cold brew. And it takes 14 to 24 hours to brew. And it takes about, with the right equipment, it takes about 10 minutes. I used to have 6 half-gallon mason jars with a system around this, and it would take me 15 minutes of prep time to get the cold brew in the fridge, and then after the brew was finished, it would take about 15 to 20 minutes of time to filter it out and pour it into half-gallon glass bottle milk containers. And that's how I would roll with my cold brew system. And at my old house, I had 2 refrigerators. And so I had a refrigerator just for cold brew coffee and tea. But that's mostly what was in the backup fridge. Then I had a chest freezer. So I had 3 freezers, 2 refrigerators. And so there was just as a prepper, I had a year's worth of food. I had a year's worth of food in my house between the freezer and the pantry. A solid year's worth of food when I was arrested. And now I can barely keep 3 days worth of food in my tiny little house. So it's a process to rebuild when your life is completely destroyed like that. And so this is how I'm doing it. And I'm documenting it and sharing it with the world. So that was today's grocery run. So I believe I went to Target on Saturday. I'm pretty sure I went on Sunday. And then I went on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember. I think it was Tuesday, one of the days. And then today. So I've already been to Target like 4 times. It's the closest place I can walk to get some groceries. So I'm going to put all this stuff away. I'm going to get some more water to drink. And I'm going to sit down for a minute. And then I'll turn the camera the other way and talk to you. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Adam. Looking rough today. Moving sucks. There's no other way to put it. Even when the last time I moved was before my arrest, and it was all the way back in, it was New Year's Day. It was the January 2nd or 3rd or something like that of 2016. And I told the story a couple videos ago, but looked on Craigslist. It was the very first ad in the housing section of Craigslist. Boom, this beautiful, gorgeous house out in the woods next to a big waterfall. It had a separate building on the property that was like a tiny house. It was actually, the separate building on the property that I used to live on, that was my office, was a tiny house. And it was a better tiny house than the tiny house I'm living in right now. It was bigger. It had like a full kitchen sink. It had a full-size fridge in it. But I used a dolly and brought the full-size fridge back into the main house and put it in. I had a perfect spot for it, right next to a chest freezer that I had bought in the entrance area of the house. if you ever saw it, it was perfect. And it opened up more space in the office when I got rid of that big fridge. Let's see. What else? So yeah, it was this gorgeous house. Freaking most beautiful, awesome house I've ever lived in my life. And I would even say it was better than my parents had a really cool house. Really cool house that was built when I was in high school. And so I lived in it for a number of years. I was like 13, 14. I was like maybe 15 years old when my parents built this house, and it's a really cool house. Lived in it for a number of years, but this place beat the shit out of my parents' house. And so I had a tiny house for my office that was bigger than the tiny house I'm living in now. All of that. But when I moved into this place, I gave them a down payment with the intent of moving in at the, I think it was the beginning of April. So they were fine with that. And so I had 3 to 4 months to get moved into this place. I took I think it was May 1st when I gave the keys back to my old house. So I spent 3 months moving, and then started living at the new place, and then still took another month to shuttle my stuff back and forth between the old house and the new house. The old house was in the city of Pittsburgh. The new house was about an hour north of Pittsburgh. And I had a Jeep Liberty at the time, a lot of cargo space, and I rented a moving van, not from U-Haul. I'm very much against U-Haul. I can't stand them. It was like a Penske truck or something like that. It was a freaking awesome truck. And there was no BS. Really cool. So next time I have to rent a moving vehicle, I'm going to look into other options besides Enterprise and U-Haul and see what I can do. But I'm going to put more research into it before, I'm going to plan it out a little better next time. But in this situation, I basically made a list of everything in my old house that I can't fit in the Jeep Liberty. Furniture mostly, just stuff that was too big. And then there was stuff that was too big that I didn't want to bring with me because I'm like, well, I didn't even know. There were things I just didn't know where I was going to fit it. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I sold and I gave away a lot of stuff. But I took 3 months to move. And on the last day or at the very end of March, when I had a few friends come over and help move the big stuff out, it was just a list of like maybe 20 things or less. I don't know, but it took a long time to load the moving truck because in my house in Pittsburgh is a hilly city. There were 32 steps going from the street to the front door of the house. 32 stairs going. So imagine going grocery shopping. You learn how to carry 25 grocery bags at the same time when you get home and you've got to go up 32 stairs to get to your front door and to go in your house after grocery shopping. So you're going to learn how to carry all your groceries at once. You're not going to be making trips up and down the stairs, especially in the winter. Imagine shoveling the stairs and taking care of that so you don't die falling down 32 stairs in the middle of winter. Crazy situation. So it took us a while to load up the moving van, but when we got to my new house, it took us 15 minutes. 15 minutes to empty the moving van and get all the furniture and all the stuff where it was supposed to be. And good enough. And that was the day that I started living in the new place. But it was probably 1 to 2 months before I felt like the house was livable after moving in. So that was 3 months of moving stuff up there. In a, granted, I could have rented a big truck and made a couple of, I could have done it differently, but I would fill up my Jeep Liberty. I would drive up there after work, and then I would putz around and do some stuff, and I would actually put things away, and I would spend some time with it. So it was an organized move. It wasn't total chaos. But it was still, after I moved all the furniture and all the big stuff up there, it was 2 months after I started living in the new place before I felt like I can have people over and this is livable. And granted, I'm living in a tiny shack house now with enough possessions at first that basically fit in a minivan. A Chrysler Pacifica where all the back seats fold completely flat down into the floor, so you have the entire space as cargo space. All of my stuff except for the 2 bicycles and one other thing. Oh, my office chair that I'm sitting in right now. Everything else I own fit in one trip of that van. So it was actually a pretty it didn't take me long to get everything kind of tidy in this place and organized, and each day gets a little bit more organized than the day before. I took a bag of random cables and computer cables yesterday, and it was just a bird's nest of random wires and cables, and so I used Velcro ties and twist ties and things like that, and I organized that entire bag. So I grouped all the cables that are, USB-C or the micro USB, or all there's 20 different types of USB connectors, and I grouped, cables together, bundled them up, Velcro or twist tied them together so everything in that bag was organized, and just things like that. And I'll keep doing that stuff day by day as I'm living here. But at my last time I moved, the internet was always an issue at that place. There was one cable company, only one option for broadband internet. Starlink wasn't available yet, and there was absolutely no other choice but this one cable company. And I had a huge video game collection, and the drop point for the cable into the house just happened to be in the basement where I had this man cave room set up. And it just happened to be in the perfect spot so that my router could sit there, and all of the video game consoles that were internet capable would plug directly into the router to give the fastest speed possible, because the work that I do doesn't need as fast of an internet connection as your game systems do when you're doing online gaming. Online gaming is probably the most bandwidth intensive thing when you do multiplayer gaming, and you need a really fast connection, or you're going to have laggy games. And so I had to come up fast with a way to get my internet signal from the basement upstairs in the house, and then 50 feet across the front yard to the other building and into the other building, and able to make it work. And this broadband company, the cable company, because they had such a monopoly in the area, internet that would cost you $50 a month in Pittsburgh, they were charging $100 to $120 for out there. Because there was no other option, there was no competition. They could just charge and gouge you for it. And so that was a bad situation right off the bat. That was a difficult situation. My other option was have 2 accounts with the company, one cable modem in my office and one cable modem in the basement of the house, and pay like $250 a month for freaking internet. And I was like, to hell with that. Fuck no. I'm going to figure this out. And so I had, in my first week, 2 weeks there, I sat there. I went through, I don't know how many things I ordered from Amazon and returned to Amazon and went to Walmart, brought home, used, took back to, I ended up going through all kinds of crazy shit. And I ended up buying a really high-end router at the time, Wi-Fi router. Got big, long Wi-Fi antennas for that router. Some really nice, like, high-end antennas, because that router had 4 antennas in the back, and I could replace those antennas with better antennas, bigger ones that had more frequency push. Then upstairs, by the window, where the closest window that looked out at my office, I had to put a repeater up there. And the repeater had one big long antenna that basically picked up the signal from the basement, and then it had a flat panel antenna that shot the radio waves across the yard directly at the building. But even that still wasn't enough. I still had to get another repeater to put in the office to receive the signal from that booster antenna, and then I could use an Ethernet connection to wire my computers directly into that repeater, because the Wi-Fi signal still wasn't strong enough for the computer's built-in antennas to pick up and have good speed. And so, but because of all those hops and the distances involved at the source where the internet comes into my house, if you plugged a computer directly into the cable modem, you would get like 500 megabits per second there. But as you move farther away and all these hops and repeaters, when you're out in my office, you'd get about 50 megabits per second download speeds. And a significant drop, maybe 20 megabits upload speed, which is for what the work that I was doing. All right, so there's another cut in the video. Interesting day, but I'm having a hard time keeping my eyes open right now, and the rigor mortis from, I cycled 40 miles today on a bicycle, and then I did a 2 to 3 mile backpacking trip to Target and back, and that's a lot. And I did an 8-hour day at a job that's very physically demanding. This is probably the most physically demanding job I've ever had, because most of my career has been sitting in a chair in front of a computer. But even in the days in high school and college when I had stand on your feet jobs, I worked at a bicycle shop, I worked at Kinko's, I worked at Burger King when I was in high school. This job at this bakery is more physically exhausting than any other job I've had. But anyway, the video cut out again. So there's going to be cut throughout this video, but the video cut out because the battery on my phone died. I forgot that it was at like 10% power, and I just hit record and started talking to you all without thinking to plug a power cord into the side, while I'm doing this. And right after the phone died, at the exact same time the phone went blank, there's a knock on the door, and it's the landlord, and his electrician was supposed to come today, which I know that he did. I know the electrician didn't come today because I still have my Obama phone from when I was homeless in Jamestown. And one thing that you can do with old Android phones is set up a security camera, remote security. Even if you have an old Android or an iPhone just laying around in a drawer or whatever, and those can still connect to Wi-Fi. And so one useful thing that you can do with an old phone is you can plug it in with a USB cable into a wall, and you can position it somehow, point the camera at whatever you want to point the camera at, and you basically have a ghetto security camera. And so I took my Obama phone yesterday and installed the right software on it. And there's a million different apps. Google this. I don't like the app that I'm currently using, or I'd tell you the name of it. I've used other ones in the past that were better. You'll have to experiment and play around with it until you find the one that works. And the Obama phone's a piece of garbage in terms of a device. So that's hard. It makes it harder to work with. But all I wanted to see, I just want this phone to give me an alert if somebody comes into the place when I'm not here. And then when I'm home, I'll just take the phone and go bloop and hide the lens, cover the lens, whatever, turn the phone off, whatever I got to do. But so I didn't get any alerts today that anybody was in the apartment. These apps, they allow you to, I can turn on the light remotely, the flashlight on the camera or on the phone. I can light up the room. It doesn't really light up the room, but I can make the phone, I can make an alarm sound on the phone. I can talk through the phone and be like, what the fuck you doing in here? Shit like that. So anyway, as soon as the battery died while I was talking to you guys, there's a knock at the door. I go open the door, and it's the landlord with the electrician. And so they come in. They're looking at the water heater situation, and they're going to put in a better system, like a propane-powered tankless water heater versus an electric tankless water heater. And he's just going to make sure to fill the propane tank on a as-needed basis. And I can go out there and monitor the level. And if it's only powering a water heater and nothing else, there shouldn't be any issues with that. In my tiny house office at my last house, there was a propane heater. There was a big propane tank that powered this tiny little propane. It was like a little propane fireplace inside the little tiny house cabin. And that thing that office would get so ridiculously hot that you would have to open a window in the middle of winter just to cool it back down. And I had a couple of electric heaters, the oil-filled radiant heaters, and I had those hooked on to a Wi-Fi outlet. So when I was in the house getting ready to go to work, because I had to go across the yard, I could pull up my phone and be like, bloop, and turn on the heat out in the office and get the office warm before I go out there. And there were other things, but anyway, he's going to fix that. He was talking about, we're still talking about getting a better fridge in here. So the washing machine is new. I guess there's a brand new washing machine, but that's not in the realm of possibility for me with the energy that I'm dealing with right now, because I'm crashing pretty hard. So, but I'm off tomorrow. I got all day tomorrow to do my laundry, get caught up on that. That'll be nice to be able to do laundry whenever I want. That'll be a really nice situation there. And I won't have, that'll be a nice situation. And so things are moving along, and the only thing I was talking about when the battery went dead was that every time I've ever moved, it seems like the first 1 or 2 months post-move are just chaos, because moving's always worse than you expect. So I expected that it would be worse than I expected. Before I even left my friend's house, I expected it would be whatever I expected, I was just like, expect it to be worse than that. And it was. But it's not all bad. It's just you never know what you're going to need until you actually get in the place. And the one thing I was digging into with my last residence was the internet was a very tricky thing to figure out. And because I worked from home, I didn't have the luxury. I had to be able to get online and be at work. So I had to cobble together. I took a day off to go figure the stuff out, to get the internet. I took a day off the day that the internet guy came to hook up my internet. I took the day off in advance, the day that I knew they were coming to set everything up. And I had that day to figure out how to get it to work. And it was I had it working at a very basic level, but it wasn't stable and it wasn't good. It was just good enough to get the job done. And if I had to bring a computer into the house and use the Wi-Fi in the house, so be it. It wasn't perfect, but it was very flaky, and I would constantly, I would say once a month, I would lose the connection out in the office. And the only way to get everything stable again was to shut every device off. So I have two repeaters, plus the router, plus the cable modem. And I would have to turn all of that stuff off. And then one by one, plug in the cable modem. Wait until it completely boots up. Wait until it's all green lights. Then start the router. Wait until the router boots up. Wait until the router's giving me all green lights go. Test the router. Make sure that my phone can connect to the router and to the Wi-Fi networks. I had a 2 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz. Make sure I can connect to both of those. Are they fast enough? Are they working? Go upstairs, boot up the repeater. Sit there with my phone. Test the repeater. Can I get on the Wi-Fi networks that the repeater shoots out? The 5 gigahertz and the 2 gigahertz. Well, actually, I was having problems with the repeater, and I only needed a 2 gigahertz out in my office. So the repeater only broadcasts a repeated signal that was 2 gigahertz spectrum, because the distance you can get with 2 gigahertz is a lot farther than a 5 gigahertz spectrum. And so I would test that out, make sure that works. Then that repeater that's what I was talking about when the power went out. The repeater had a big, long, skinny antenna that picked up the signal from the basement, and then it had a square panel antenna mounted in the window, aimed exactly at my office where the repeater was in the office. And those square antennas, instead of a bubble like a light bulb, is a sphere of light around the bulb. You gotta think of a Wi-Fi antenna as a light bulb that you can't see. But a panel antenna is like a spotlight. It's like, boo, straight out. It's shooting a beam instead of a sphere of a radio signal. And so it can direct all the strength of that signal straight at what you're aiming it at. And so I aimed it straight at a repeater in the office that also had these big rabbit ear antennas, and then it would pick that up. And then I didn't even have that repeater, was only a receiver. It was set up only to receive the signal coming from the house. And then there were Ethernet cables plugged into that went to my desk and my computers. And so that's what I had a day or two to figure out. And I had it working at a basic level, but tinkering with the antennas, trying different repeaters, all that kind of stuff I experimented with. I experimented with that crap all the way up until the arrest by the FBI. I was constantly screwing around and trying different things, and but it would be stable. I would go maybe 1 to 2 months without having any issues at all, and then all of a sudden in my office, no internet. And so I'd have to go backtrack to the house, go out of the, with my phone, and I had all these different apps for testing everything and checking everything, and just backtrack to the house to see where the problem was. If it was like truly like an outage at my internet company, the cable modem in the house would be flashing. And that would just tell me, well, there's nothing I can do until the cable company gets their shit together. I'll go back out in the office with my phone and use my phone as a hotspot for now. And so I had a backup internet connection for, I had a really good signal strength from AT&T at my house for some reason. Full bars, way better than what I have at T-Mobile. My phone's hotspot was faster than the T-Mobile home internet that I have here right now. Just because AT&T had really good coverage at that house for some reason. I think there was a tower pretty close by that didn't have a lot of congestion, and so I got really wicked high speeds with AT&T from that house. I would have used it out in my office. I would have got a home internet-based router from AT&T specifically for my office, but they give you a bandwidth cap. It's this net neutrality bullshit that they threw in the trash. And so instead of having unlimited internet like I had on my cable modem, I would have had something like 50 gigabytes a month to use in my office for a ridiculously expensive price, and then more ridiculously expensive charges for every time I go over that amount, which 50 gigabytes when you're working from home, shit, you're going to blow through that in about 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks easily. I averaged about 250 gigabytes per month from my normal use across all devices in the house. That didn't really fluctuate up and down too much. Over the 6 years I lived in that house, it really never changed. I never got a 4K TV, so I wasn't watching Netflix in 4K. That would bump it up a bit, but that was what it averaged out to. But so moving sucks. There's always going to be a never-ending list of things that drive you crazy for the first few weeks, even moving into a tiny little cabin like this. Even if even if I were to move into an RV, I had a micro RV. I had a Nissan Frontier pickup truck with the king cab, so it had the front doors, but then it had the suicide doors behind that with the bench seat in the back that you could flip up, the little jump seats. So that was what the front of the cab had, or that was what the cab had. So you could put 4 people in there, but I never really did. Maybe once or twice I had my son sit in the jump seat in the back, but he was 14 and he probably thought that was cool. That had a 6-foot bed, and when I bought the truck, I actually took it on a test drive and drove down to a parking lot, got out of the truck, and laid down in the back of the truck because the whole point was I was going to make that into a sleeper cab. And so a 6-foot bed, and to get it done quickly so I wouldn't have to build it myself, I got a prefabricated kit from this company called Decked. It's a flat deck, exactly what the name says, with 2 6-foot-long sliding drawers that slide out on wheels. And I mean, these things are like feather touch. You pull the handle and go like that, and the things just go. They're on like rollerblade wheels, and they just roll right out. Beautiful thing. And then I got an ARE camper shell for the top to enclose the whole thing. And then I made a custom mattress out of memory foam. Got some foam at Joann Fabrics, and then I had a memory foam topper from that I had on an old bed that I wasn't using anymore, and so I cut that up and made a really nice, comfortable bed. And so this thing could take everything that you would need to go. You could live out of this thing. Not extremely comfortably, but you could live out of this thing, no problem. Had everything you could possibly imagine for cooking, for camping, for all the stuff you would need, tools that you would need, if you had a problem. I had a rear hitch, so I was going to get a bicycle hitch mount to carry bicycles on. That was one thing that was missing when I got arrested that I hadn't done yet. But I was going to get a swing swing bar hitch mount rack for the bikes, so I could carry a couple bicycles on the back, but as I want to get in and out of the back to sleep, I can just slide the bicycles out of the way, climb up in, sleep, lock the bicycles back when it's time to drive again. The pickup truck had a bunch of modifications done to it before I bought it. Had an ARB front bumper, like a really badass front bumper that covered the entire front of the truck. My son and I took it on a road trip. I hit a deer going 60 miles an hour. The deer went bing, like off into outer space. And I thought the whole front of my truck was destroyed. I get out. There's like a mark of deer hair on this bumper and not a single scratch on the truck. If it weren't for that ARB front bumper that somebody put on the truck before I bought it, that deer would have completely destroyed the front of my truck. Had a winch, had a really nice winch. I had to buy a winch controller because the dealership didn't have the winch controller, but I got one that plugged in with a cable instead of this remote thing that they had, because it's more reliable. So I had a winch with a winch controller. I could get myself out if I got stuck somewhere. It had the Goodrich TA off-road tires, but they were like the road. There's a different version of those tires for the road. And I drove this truck to Florida and back. I drove it. I bought this truck specifically to go on long trips. And you wouldn't hear the tires buzzing on the road like the TA tires normally. When you're driving down the road, you hear bzzz as these tires are vibrating against the road, but these just sounded like normal car tires going down the road. But they had enough bite, and they came in handy a few times. I didn't really take this pickup truck through as much shit as I would take my Jeeps that I owned over the years. I even put my Wrangler, I had a pretty nice Wrangler along with this truck. If I knew I was going camping somewhere that was going to be a little bit rough and a little bit tough to get in and out of, I'm not taking the pickup truck. Even though the pickup truck was capable of doing it, I'm taking the Jeep because as a driver, I can maneuver a two-door Jeep Wrangler a lot easier in tight spaces and up and down and over things. And the Jeep was a stick shift. The pickup truck was an automatic. At first, I wanted a stick shift for the pickup truck. But then when I started going on these long road trips, I sat back and I'm like, this automatic is great. So all I got to do is sit here and drive. And, I've got the cruise control and all the buttons on the steering wheel. I ain't got to do nothing but just sit back and cruise. And, but if I need to get the four-wheel drive engaged and get this thing dirty, boom, it's there. It's going to do its job. But, LED lights, I had enough LED lights to overpower the sun. If I ever turned on these LED lights, if somebody was coming the other way, they would probably go blind from the exposure to the lights. They were so freaking bright. I could go to the darkest of places in the woods. I could go down the darkest trail in the woods going back to a campsite, flick a switch on my dashboard. It would be as if the sun just came out and it's daylight all of a sudden. But I had a pickup truck that I could live in. But every time I took that truck on an adventure and lived out of it, I was constantly finding out problems like, oh crap, this is a problem I've got to fix for the next trip, and this is a problem I've got to fix for the next time. And so even if I were to move into a pickup truck and live out of it, I would be, for the first couple of months for sure, I would constantly, even though it's a tiny little truck, how much can you actually, how much stuff can you fit in it, and how much can you actually, you're going to find out that even if you're living out of your car, you're going to be constantly figuring things that you're going to be trying to constantly improve your situation. And you're gonna throw everything together half-assed and just get the job done on day one, like I did here. And then day two, you're gonna be like, well, I can improve. I can use what I have to make all these improvements. Day 3, I got to make a run to Target because I don't even have a toilet brush. I don't have a plunger. What if I drop a deuce and it doesn't go down the hole? I'm screwed. So we got to make sure, things like that. You run into the same kind of situations when you're, building a pickup truck to live out of. The first time I took that thing on an adventure, I had a laundry list of all the things that were not right and that needed to be better. The sleeping situation, the pad that I was sleeping on was terrible. Needed to make sure that I had an actual mattress. By the time I was done fixing the sleeping situation, the bed in the back of the pickup truck was more comfortable than the bed in my house. And I had a decent bed at my house. But I was like, if my back was feeling crappy, there were days I would think, maybe I'll go sleep in the pickup truck tonight because, that thing is so comfortable. But, so this is just how it is. No matter what you're moving into, you could be moving into a car, a pickup truck, an RV, a tiny house, an apartment, a house, a McMansion, a real mansion. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a break-in period where you're just going crazy and you're constantly trying to figure it out and trying to get set up and trying to improve it and trying to make it as efficient as you can and all the things. And it's not, hell, if I signed a 6-month lease at this place, it might take the entire 6 months before I finally sit back and go, man, I got this place really comfortable. Now it's time to pack up and go to the next place. So I already found, I'm always bumping around on Facebook Marketplace and I'm bookmarking things, for 6 months from now. There was a tiny house for rent today that just showed up, bigger than this, with a full kitchen, full-size fridge, dishwasher, range, nice gas range with a oven door, and it sits on a property of 6 acres, and it's out in the country, and it's quiet. And I was like, wow, it's a couple $100 more a month than this place is, but bookmark that thing. If for some reason somebody moves into this little thing and they turn out to be a crappy tenant and get themselves kicked out or whatever the case may be, I'm just going to bookmark this thing. If it's available when it's time for me to bounce, that might be something to bounce to. Now, if this $65 an hour, $150,000 a year job that I'm trying to connect with the HR guy for, the HR guy that works at the actual company, if I can somehow get that or something like that, I'm going to have enough income to generally, I can get a car and a vehicle of some kind, and I can move basically wherever I want to live. So I don't know what, or maybe everything will just fall apart, and hopefully I don't end up homeless again. But I don't know. Didn't get a call back. I'm having a problem getting in touch with the guy at this company. These companies are just this whole fucking job market is such a shit show these days. It's unbelievable, the retarded shit that I'm dealing with from these companies, one after the next after the next. I just think it's a case of either the guy is so busy that he didn't have, like, we keep playing phone tag. Well, he has messaged me. He messaged me last week a few times, and we went back and forth, and he goes, I'm going to call you today. And that was Friday, and he didn't call. I would have taken the call if he called, but he didn't call. And I didn't push the subject because I had all kinds of stuff going on. I was moving. So I'm like, I'll take the call and do the best I can, but I'd rather him call me next week. Well, now it's Friday, it's a week after the fact. So I did call him on my 2 days off that I had. I had Wednesday and Thursday where I had all my office set up I think Wednesday was the day I set up my workspace here and had the internet up and everything was basically dialed in. So I gave him a call, left him a message on his voicemail. So I still haven't heard back. We're just gonna, I don't know. I don't really know how this is gonna go. But everybody I know looking for a job right now, and everybody in this whole fucked up Joe Biden economy right now is having a hard time either keeping their job or finding a job. And now that Trump is president, it seems like all these fucking douchebags that work for the government are going to be the ones being laid off and thrown out into the street. And they deserve it. Get them the fuck out of there. But hopefully, maybe the economy will turn around to where I can get an actual job again. Or I'll just pick up clients, and I gotta find a way to not have to work a back-breaking minimum wage job that I have to ride my bicycle 40 miles per shift just to get there and back. That's not going to... I'm fine with the exercise. The bike rides have been fun. But let's talk 6 months from now if I'm still having to ride my bike 40 miles to go work for $80 to $100 a shift. Like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work in the long run. So, and it's going to hurt my ability to do more profitable things with my time because of the energy suck. Even though I'm gonna be cut and I'm gonna look good, I'm gonna have, muscle tone, and I'm gonna be thin again, and I'm probably gonna have women hitting on me all the time, and I'm not gonna have, I'm gonna have women hitting on me, but I can't be like, oh, why don't you come back to my tiny house where I have a shitter in the same place where I eat and in the same place where I sleep. So, if you gotta take a dump or go take a piss while you're chilling, just walk over and drop trowel and drop a load in the bowl. So, yeah. I gotta figure this is just a temporary situation, and we gotta do better. We gotta do better. But instead of focusing on all the things you gotta do and all the things that you want to do and all the things you haven't done yet, I can also rewind the clock and say, 6 months ago I was homeless in Jamestown, New York, living in a fucking homeless shelter, going to the library every day trying to... I couldn't even find a fucking minimum wage job in that dump of a town. And now it's like 20 degrees. When this whole week it's been 80 degrees and sunny. Or maybe a little cloudy, but it's been like 80 degrees. It went straight from winter. I was cycling to work when it was 20 degrees out in the morning here in Houston. Right around the day that Trump was inaugurated, we had a major snowstorm. Like, oh, gee, I wonder, I'm not even going to get into, weather modification and who controls the weather. But I thought that was quite ironic that on the day he was inaugurated, all of a sudden the entire country is in this, deep freeze to where Houston is... 20, it was actually colder than 20 degrees in the middle of the night, and it was starting to kind of warm up, and I think it got up to 30 degrees that day. But anyway, it was like being back in New York, riding my bike to and from, freezing my ass off, and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, it's summer. No spring, there's no spring, it just went, boom, it's summer, 80 degrees. It's it was 67 degrees when I left at 6:30 this morning to start my bicycle ride, and on my way home it was 82, 83, something like that. Boom, I'm loving it. Loving that heat. The fresh air, the cycling, it's all good. So, but instead of focusing on all of the things that I haven't done or haven't gotten around to or haven't been able to do or still can't do, or the money I'm not making and all that stuff, I kind of calculated right now I'm on pace to make $25,000 this year. That's my annual income. Like, how embarrassing is that? There's high school kids that make more than me right now. But that's $25,000 a year more than I was making being homeless in fucking Jamestown, New York, where I couldn't even find a minimum wage job. So, you just gotta, like, sometimes when you're frustrated about not getting where you're trying to go, look back at where you came from and see how far you have actually come. And with that, I'm gonna let you go. I'm a train wreck. I'm gonna, like, physically, I'm gonna splice these videos together, hit the upload button. It might not go up until tomorrow, but as soon as I see that YouTube's got it and it's ready to publish, I'll hit that button and we'll talk again. I'll probably look more presentable the next time we talk, but right now it is what it is. Peace out.